Hey, what is going on, guys? DK. Back at you with another video here to bring the 8-game NBA main slate on Saturday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is DK. I make daily videos and live stream for NBA and NFL slates on Draftkings. If you guys are playing Week 11 NFL main slate, be on the lookout for my final look video. That'll be up early tomorrow morning. If you guys are unable to watch these YouTube videos, I also upload on Apple Podcasts. Link down below called the DK DFS Show. And if you're interested in signing up for premium content, offer that on Patreon.com, NBA, NFL, and esports package. The sponsor of the video is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the first time watching is a player prop site where you can take over/under on fantasy points or over/under on straight up points, assists, rebounds. So right now they just have the points up here for tomorrow, but yeah, they're gonna have a lot more posted throughout the day. You can mix and match sports as well, and you can win up to 10x your money. So if you guys want to try out PrizePicks, make sure to sign up. Use my code DKDFS. It is DKDFS. It is all one word, and you'll get a 100% match up to $100. All right, guys. So before we get into players and their prices for this 8-game slate, let's look back my lineup here from tonight. So tonight was close. Was pretty close to a takedown. Not gonna lie. DeAndre Ayton foul trouble, and then Ayton and Brunson getting pulled with like 2 minutes left in a 12-point game. That hurt. That probably cost me a good $500 or so. Like, you see the Jazz up by 30 in the fourth quarter playing their starters, but in a 10, 12-point game with 2 minutes left, let's wave the white flag. Like, really? It was really close call for me with Gary Payton versus Patty Mills. It won Gary Payton. Patty Mills did better by about 10 fantasy points. Poole was great at pretty high ownership, about 50%. Will Barton was actually a floor game. So this was what I was hammering home at Patreon was the safe approach is just load up on Golden State, load up on Brooklyn, and load up on Dallas, being Porzingis and Brunson. Like that was like you just do that for cash games. That's the optimal build. But if you want to roll the dice and hope that Jokic gets ruled out, then you can get some of these Denver guys at very low ownership. And Barton only 26%, Gordon only 7%, right? If we got that Jokic news, say, an hour before lock, that ownership would have been way different. So those are usually situations where I roll the dice and I hope that player ends up being ruled out and that we don't get the news till after lock. Because like we saw today when Jokic got ruled out after lock, the ownership was very, very low on these Denver guys. Now, that was definitely a floor game from Will Barton without Jokic. He goes for like 50 with Jokic, but 35 without Jokic. A little bit tilting. Expected a little bit more there from Barton. Bjelica, I was going back and forth with him and JTA. I thought since JTA was starting, he'd get more ownership. It was about the same. He got a little more ownership, but Bjelica, I think, outscored him by like a couple points. Ayton got in foul trouble. Yay. And then I got pulled 2 minutes left. Again, pretty tilted about that. I guess, too, I wasn't watching, but someone told me they threw an alley-oop to him, and he like just passed it out. So like he could have got the double-double because he had 8 and 17. So like that would have been a big help. Probably would have won me a couple extra $100. Harden was, a chalk spend up in high stakes. No surprise there. And then, I got Aaron Gordon at super, super low ownership, and Brunson finished with 41. Oh, I don't even have the here, let me go to here, I'll show you guys how to do this too. I don't even have the the Thunderdome up. So you go to NBA, and then you go to View Live Contest, and let's see who won the Thunderdome. So View Live Contest, you can check out whichever tournament you want. Oh, let's actually go to this Rainmaker special. $3,000 entry, 130 entries. Let's see who ended up winning this. Japol Attic. So he had a lineup of Peyton, Poole, Tatum, JTA, Ayton, Mills, Gordon, and Harden. So pretty close. What he finished? 348. I was 327. So not too far off there. The one thing I will say, too, is contest selection. I entered a tournament with over 200 entries, which is a little bit of a bigger size tournament. I'm just kind of mad at myself at. Usually I focus on those smaller ones, like 20 to 50 entries, because if I did one of those, I probably would have taken it down or gotten like second and would have had a better ROI, right? Like I feel like I had a really, really good night here, and I only like 3x money in this tournament, about 4x overall. Should have been a bigger night. That's on me for not entering that smaller field, more smaller field tournament, right? Easier ROI. But yeah, this was ownership. Let's see, Gary Payton 34%, Poole 60%, Tatum 14%, JTA 50+%, Ayton 43%, Mills about 30. Gordon got way more ownership here, right? So like the sharp players, ownership's going to go a lot higher. So Gordon about 30% in this one, whereas in mine he was only about 7%, right? And then Harden 73%. Let's see what else ownership-wise stands out here. Hart had another good game. Again, the Gordon ownership in this one was a lot higher than it was in my tournament. Porzingis, once again, 30+% on another smash for him. Monte Morris got a little bit of ownership. He was okay. Expected a little bit more there. But yeah, it was just kind of Aaron Gordon that took over. Anything else that kind of stands out here? Giannis got a little ownership. I just wasn't touching that game. I was not confident that the game stayed competitive, but hey, the Thunder kept it close. So, James Johnson, he was an absolute smash play at 1% ownership. But yeah, guys, that is it for the look back. Hope you guys had a good night. It was a really good night for a lot of us over on Patreon. So hoping to keep that going. Let's talk about this 8-game slate. So we'll start off with Miami. So Miami, once again, we have Bam Adebayo is questionable. I think he plays. And Hero was out but upgraded to questionable. So that's two pretty big pieces of news to keep an eye on. If they're both out, then Jimmy Butler makes a pretty good spend up, who's just going to have to do it all. Him and Lowry look decent, but I would prefer spending the extra couple thousand for Jimmy. And if Bam is out, then Dwayne Dedmon becomes a good value play. I know he was kind of a letdown last time Bam was out, but I'd be fine going right back to the well there. If Hero and Bam Adebayo are both in, there's not a lot that stands out for me on the Miami side. So, yeah, monitor the status there of those two guys. Moving on to Washington. So, tough matchup here. Dinwiddie returning. I really don't have much interest. Kuzma had a ceiling game last game. I'm not touching that. Gafford is currently questionable. If he can't go, then Montrezl is probably my favorite play on this team, who probably starts to play 36 minutes last game. Kind of had a floor game. I know it's not the best matchup, but if there's no Gafford, I'm fine going to Montrezl there in the mid-range. Probably not getting anyone else. I tried to roll the dice at Denny. He had -0.5 fancy points at half. That's why I don't play score-independent players. But when I fade, 11, 10 rebounds. I play him, 1 rebound, and -0.5 points at half. Pelicans and Pacers. So on the Pelicans side, Jonas Valanciunas had a really solid game tonight, played 38 minutes and absolutely smashed 50 fancy points. I think he's a solid option, but with Ingram back, the usage isn't as high. Brandon Ingram himself at 8.3K, also playing big minutes. I think a decent option, kind of in the upper mid-tier. I think he goes a little bit overlooked. Devontae Graham missed the game today. I don't think he comes back tomorrow. NAW really didn't get that minutes bump. He only played 27 minutes. He's been up and down this season. Josh Hart's been pretty consistent, though. Only 5.1K. I think he'll be pretty popular tomorrow. But he's continuing to play big minutes, continuing to rebound the ball really well. And this is an up-tempo game. So I think Josh Hart makes a pretty good play in the mid-range. And they started, where is he? Satoransky at the flat min price. He played 25 minutes. If he starts again, he's viable. I think Kira Lewis got some extra run there too. Yeah, he played 23 minutes. I had a really good game. If you want to go to him as a contrarian option in tournaments, I don't think it's the worst idea. And obviously monitor their starting lineup. But I would assume if Graham's out, that Sato starts again. On the Pacers side, man, if you played Sabonis or Brogdon tonight, I really feel for you. Like Rick Carlisle is just the absolute worst. Like, what on earth is he doing with that rotation? He just waved the white flag at halftime. Sabonis and Brogdon played 20 minutes. 22 minutes for Sabonis and 21 for Brogdon. Are you serious, Rick Carlisle? Are you actually serious? 23. But yeah, decent spot here for both of them. I do prefer the price on Brogdon. Sabonis' usage has been down this year. It's a little bit concerning. The rest of the Pacers, there's really not much. LeVert, Turner, I'm probably going to pass on. Who was it? Where is he? Jeremy Lamb. Where's Jeremy Lamb? Just literally an insane game today. Where is he? I was losing my mind. I can't find him. We talk about this, guys. Okay, so you see, a ceiling game from 44 fantasy points from Jeremy Lamb. Maybe a lot of the Pacers are out or, whatever, blowout. Okay, what are 44 fantasy points? 16 minutes. In 16 minutes, Jeremy Lamb goes for 44 fantasy points. Just think about that for a second. Jeremy Lamb, 16 minutes, 44 fantasy points. That is almost 3 fantasy points a minute for Jeremy Lamb, who has basically been out of this rotation. That's one of the most wild things I've ever seen in DFS. I'm not kidding. That is just absolutely insane. All right, OKC and Boston. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 8.4K. In a competitive game, he's going to play 35 to 38 minutes. The assist numbers are down, so he is a riskier option. But if the Thunder are going to keep this game close, probably a big game from him and Giddey. Now, Giddey, minutes have been a little more consistent recently, 30-plus the last 3 games. That's good to see. Again, he's handling the ball a little bit more, doing a decent job with the peripheral stats. So I think a solid option in the mid-range, not a must. Baisley at 5-1. Minutes have been a little bit up and down on him. The upside's there, but the floor is a little bit lower. Lou Dort at 5K, good defender. He's consistently playing over 30 minutes. I think a safe option, kind of had an outlier performance 2 games ago. Robinson Earl, I mentioned as like a pivot off of some of those Golden State value bigs. It didn't really work out, but like the minutes were there, right? But like he still could have gone for like 25 plus fantasy points. If you use Robinson Earl as a pivot, that was like a decent pivot in tournaments. It just didn't work tonight. But if he starts again and continues to play 25 plus minutes, I think he's actually a decent value because he is power forward eligible, which is nice to see. Okay, on the Boston side, so got to keep an eye on Brown and Robert Williams. I don't think either play since they didn't play tonight, but I could be wrong. So Jason Tatum at 9.9. If the Thunder can keep this game close, I think Tatum's a solid option. 50 plus last couple games. He had a really good game tonight, 64 fantasy points, and I like the spot here against the Thunder. Horford at 7.6 will play more at the 5 without Robert Williams, but he's already priced up. Schroeder, revenge game narrative. He's been playing 34 to 35 minutes in a competitive game. I think he's a decent option in the mid-range. Marcus Smart at 5-1 continues to play 30, 35 minutes. He's played pretty well, too, of late. I think he's actually viable. And then Josh Richardson continues to get some decent run off the bench, 25 plus. His price just isn't moving. So, like, Josh Richardson should be like 4 to 4.5K, and he's continuing to be just like 3, almost mid-price. So like he's too cheap. He's definitely in play for value. And I think that they started Grant Williams again. Yeah, Grant Williams not a good point per minute guy as we saw last game, but if he starts again, you can use him. He just has a lot lower floor. All right, Charlotte and Atlanta. So LaMelo Ball had a really good game tonight. He's only 10, or he is 10.4K, not only because that price is not super cheap. A guy that does have this type of upside. He's playing big minutes too. Like he played 39 minutes, 36, 38. That's really good to see because earlier in the year he was playing like under 30 minutes for some reason. I don't know why. He's also shooting guard eligible too for some reason. But I think LaMelo is a decent spend up, not like a optimal spend up, but definitely something you can go to in a tournament setting. Bridges at 8K has kind of come back down to earth, as has Harrison Barnes, right, where these two were the best players to ever step on a basketball court the first couple weeks. Now they're getting back down to earth. Hayward, Rozier to secondary options. PJ Washington, I don't think he plays. If he misses, you can consider a guy like Mason Plumlee, who should play 25 to 28 minutes. But I don't know if it will be necessary on the slate. Kelly Oubre at 4.4K. He's viable for tournaments. I play him, he gets ejected. I fade him, he smashes. That's just how it always goes. But floor is low on him, ceiling's there, so he's always someone you can consider in GPPs. I'm moving on to Atlanta. So Trae Young, never someone I consider for cash games, but is in play for tournaments. Doesn't really stand out, but again, this is the ceiling he has. He can go for 50, 72, but also has a floor of like low 30s. So never someone I would consider in cash games. So for tournaments, it's an up-tempo matchup here against the Hornets. Capella, those minutes are ticking up on him. 35, 32, 32, 34, 32 minutes. He's a good rebounder. I kind of like him in the spot against Mason Plumlee. I think he should be able to feast. So I don't know if he'll be super popular, but I'm pretty high on Clint Capella tomorrow. John Collins, 7K, also playing pretty solid minutes. The main 3 guys here for the Hawks look good. And then without Hunter, Herter started. He's only 3.8K. Assuming he starts again, I think he makes for a pretty good value play. He does have a relatively low floor. I know he got injured here, but like 12 fantasy points in 30 minutes. So he can still hurt you, but like he is too cheap if he starts again. So I think Herter is a good value play. If you want to consider guys like Gallinari and Reddish off the bench, you can. The minutes are not as secure as a guy like Herter, but those are 2 guys that you can look to as pivots off of Herter if you would like. All right, Orlando and Milwaukee. So Cole Anthony, 7.9K. If they're going to keep this game competitive, it's probably because of Cole Anthony. Didn't shoot the ball the best last game, but still in for 35 fantasy points. So I think Cole's a solid GPP play. Mo Bamba at 6'5", continuing to play big minutes, 30 to 35. At this price point, I think he is viable in tournaments, a good shot blocker. And then you have a couple of value plays too. Franz Wagner, 4.3K. I think he plays low 30s minutes. So that's the positive here with these Magic starters is they're playing them big minutes. So as long as this game stays competitive, I think Franz Wagner and even Jalen Suggs are decent value plays. Suggs finally had a good game. Like, finally. We saw 37 fantasy points from Suggs. So I think him, Franz Wagner, both make for decent options. And then Terrence Ross at 3.4 off the bench is viable. He's been getting the minutes have been ticking up on him, 31, 26, 30, 34. He is kind of reliant on the scoring, but I think he is certainly in play. All right, moving on to Milwaukee. So Giannis Antetokounmpo at 11.9K. If you think the Magic can keep this game competitive, I think he makes for a pretty safe spend up. My only concern is, do the Bucks just blow out the Magic, right? Back-to-back here for the Magic. So, like, that's my worry. But if the game stays close, I think Giannis makes for a pretty good spend up. Not really interested in Middleton or Holiday at their respective price points. I will mention Bobby Portis at 6'7". He's been continuing to play about 30 minutes without Brook Lopez. I think he's viable, but not someone that really stands out at his price point. All right, Memphis and Minnesota, another game that should be played at a pretty fast pace. So John Morant, 10.2. We have Dylan Brooks, doubtful. DeAnthony Melton out, so the usage should be pretty high in a guy like John Morant. I think in a competitive game, we get around 35 minutes from him. So at this price, probably not a cash game play, but I like him for tournaments. Triple J, just always a headache. You can always play him in a GPP setting, but just be ready to tilt the foul trouble. Adams, the minutes been a little bit too up and down. Like, I played him in the spot against Minnesota, assuming he was going to play 30-plus minutes, and he plays 19. So, like, knowing my luck, he'll actually get 30-plus minutes in this spot and crush, and I'll be very upset. But, yeah, without Brooks and Melton, I think Desmond Bane at 4.5 makes for a pretty good value play. He's been seeing around 30 minutes, probably gets a tick up there in usage. I like him, and it's going to be interesting to see who they start. Do they move slow-mo in the starting lineup? Or, maybe do they go to a guy like, where is he? John Conchar, possibly. So, like, for Brooks, because Brooks and Melton are out. So, like, they're going to start Ja, Triple J, Adams, Bane, and then, like, the fifth guy, I'm not sure. So, monitor that starting lineup, potential value there, and who they end up starting. Moving on to the Minnesota side. So, Karl-Anthony Towns at 10-1, in play for tournaments. The floor has been a little bit lower on him this year with D'Lo and Ant-Man both there. Ant-Man, 8K. Doesn't really stand out. D'Lo at 7.6, probably a slight preference to him because the minutes have been pretty high in him. He's getting a ton of shot attempts up to 16, 21, 15, 19 shot attempts. He's handling the ball, getting those assists, and he's shooting guard eligible as well. So I think D'Lo probably my favorite play here in Minnesota. Also like Pat Beverly for value, who continues to play around 30 minutes in a competitive game. So I think he makes for a relatively safe play. And Vanderbilt, assuming he starts again, I think is a decent value option. He's a good point per guy. He is very prone to foul trouble. He stayed out of foul trouble last game, though, for 28 fantasy points. And that's probably it. Naz Reid actually missed the game last game. If he misses again, that kind of solidifies the minutes for Vanderbilt if he can stay out of foul trouble. All right, a few games left here. Utah and Sacramento. So on the Utah side, it's a good matchup, but no one ever really stands out for me. Mitchell's been quiet of late. If you want to go to him for tournaments, I think ownership will be low. Rudy Gobert, he should be able to feast against the Sacramento front court. So the top two guys there for Utah look decent. Everyone else are just secondary options. And Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, O'Neal, Ingles. You can look to Whiteside in a revenge game narrative, who probably plays 15 to 18 minutes. Good point per minute guy, but really all kind of secondary plays here for Utah. On the Sacramento side, tough matchup. Not much here I like. The Fox price is still a little bit too much for me. Again, Barnes finally coming back down to earth, thankfully, like 25, 27, 26. This is the Harrison Barnes I know. So really happy about that he's not going for 45 fantasy points a night. And there's just not much else here for Sacramento. Tough matchup. I'm most likely to be fading Sacramento. All right, finally, Philly and Portland. So still no Embiid, still no Ben Simmons. Tobias Harris at 8.1K. I like this price point on him. There's been some blowouts, but this is a good matchup. Should stay competitive, right? This is a blowout here. This game's like, I think he plays 35 to 38 minutes. He's going to be the number one here on offense, and this is a better matchup. So I do like Tobias Harris a good amount there at that price. God, Drummond. Can we talk about a 29 minutes, 12 fantasy points for Andre Drummond? Like, what happened to him? This is a guy going for 50-plus fantasy points, and all of a sudden 12 fantasy points in 29 minutes. I mean, the price came down a little bit, but I'm not confident. They can go small, too. I'm not going to mess with Drummond. Tyrese Maxey at 7-1 continues to play big minutes. I think plays around 40 in a competitive game. So he's a decent option. Probably a slight preference, though, to Tobias Harris. And then you have the secondary options are all viable. Danny Green out. Keep an eye on Thibault. I don't think he's, questionable. If he comes back, that would kind of muck up that rotation a little bit, so that would be pretty big. So keep an eye on Thibault. If Thibault's out, guys like Curry, Milton, Korkmaz, Niang, all in play here. Again, just monitor the status of Matisse Thybulle. And finally, Portland. So Damian Lillard, probable. Good matchup here. He's playing massive minutes, like 40 minutes a night. I think he makes for a pretty good spend up. I don't know if it'll be super popular. McCollum at 7-7, more of a secondary option. I mean, Nurkic has been really good point per minute, but like 23 minutes. 39 fantasy percent. I know he got in foul trouble here, but like the minutes are not great. If you're confident Yusuf Nurkic plays 28 minutes, then I think you play him at 6.3K. I'm not confident in that, though. They've been going a little bit small, so that's my concern. Covington at 3.9. He's super, super cheap. The minutes have been ticking down on him a little bit, though. I mentioned they've been going small. Larry Nance, minutes ticking up. They've been going a little bit of small ball with Larry Nance, 23, 25 minutes last couple games. So at only 3.2K, I think he's worth a look. But yeah, guys, that is going to do it for the video. So if you have been enjoying the content, again, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks again. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.